Hey there, Dango Stu here. Today's video is about assembling and learning how to use the Minelab Excalibur underwater metal detector and is proudly sponsored by marineengine.com. Alright, first bit of this video is putting this unit together from coming out of the box, just in case you're, about to do that yourself. If not, I'll put a link in the description where you can skip forward to where we actually start using the unit. May as well start from absolute scratch with this video. Any box with the word treasure on it. So this model's the Excalibur II, which is Minelab's underwater detector. Perfect for diving. You get a whole lot of stuff, quick reference card, warranty stuff, all that sort of thing. Alright, assembly instructions. I've actually done the other one already, so I've got a vague idea. Oh, it's probably worth mentioning, we'll talk to Nick more about it when we get there, but there's a few different fundamental types of detectors, and this particular one is a broadband spectrum, so it sends out, I think, 17 different frequencies simultaneously into the soil to determine what it is that's beneath the coil. We'll go into that in more detail at some stage, but that's specifically what this type of detector is. So you can see here the coil sends down 17 different frequencies and it determines how those different frequencies interact with both the soil and the objects within the soil to give you the signal that you hear. In this case, it is a signal that you listen to and you interpret, a bit like a sonar operator on a submarine, that kind of thing. There's no screen with a number that you can see like you get with some terrestrial metal detectors. Anyway, assembly. So let's put the armrest onto the main shaft. When I said before this is an underwater metal detector, it is actually amphibious. So you can use it up to 60 metres, so well beyond recreational diving limits, but you can also use it on land, so very versatile like that. The longer arm here is for use on land, so you're not hunched over. The shorter one is for use in the water. Because we're going to be training with these on land, I'm going to use the longer one for now. But once we get the detectors out onto Renko, we're going to swap them to the shorter one. Headphones. So the core of the detector actually kind of comes pre-assembled. You've got your coil, cable attached to that, cable into your main unit, battery unit, headphones. It's all put together for you already. All Red Dwarf fans will save this later for stressful times. These boxes are the various charging adapters for the nickel metal hydride, I believe that's what it is, battery inside the unit. One of them will be for Australia, but I'm going to save the others because, we'll probably do some travel with this down the track. You never know, so we're going to make sure we keep those safe. We also get a little bag for keeping our fines and rubbish that we want to dispose of. Little belt loop here, Velcro tab there. I think this is a big part of it. There's a certain responsibility when you're, going detecting, doing anything really. Take your rubbish with you, even rubbish you find that's not your rubbish, make the world a better place. And obviously if you're doing terrestrial metal detecting, fill in holes so people don't trip over, break their ankle, give the hobby a bad name. On the end of the handle here we've got a bolt and a wing nut, both made from some sort of plastic. So we're not going to have any corrosion issues, which is nice. It's just a retaining pin. The bulk of the force is actually taken by the fact that it's slotted in. You can see here there's 3 holes, so what I'll do is I'll just hold it and find out what's most comfortable for me, and I'll put it at that setting. Yeah, middle feels good for me. And nice little toolless wing nut on it. Nice and easy. Obviously this is the way you hold it. It is possible to put it on upside down, but you'll figure it out soon enough you do that, and it's no big deal just to change it. I'm going to use the longer arm, but what we need to do is down here at the bottom there's some small rubber sort of teardrop shaped bits that we have to press into here. The nice thing here is, and I'll put them both in because we got the short one and the long one, is they give you enough to go into both arms, so you can just leave them in. You don't have to swap them over. So we'll put 2 into the short arm, 2 into the long arm. When it comes to putting these little rubber teardrop bits in, I think it's easiest to put it in from the pointy end first, personally, having tried it both ways. Right, now, the shaft has one of these spring-loaded press retaining lugs, and once again you've got 3 positions so you can find what's comfortable for your height. What you need to do now, probably the trickiest part of the whole assembly, is you need to wind the cable that goes from the main control unit down to the coil, and you need to wind it enough times so you don't just have this slack flopping around. But you do need to leave a bit of slack so that as you adjust the angle of the coil, you don't put any tension on it. The manual itself actually says try sort of sitting on your knee and rotating the shaft. I think, look, it's up to you. You only have to do it once, so take your time, get it right, and then provided you don't change shafts, you're pretty much good to go for the life of the metal detector, really. I'm going to attach the pole to the coil before I start winding, then I can just turn the whole thing together. For the coil, there's another one of these plastic bolts with a wing nut, slightly longer than the other one. I'm also presuming, as well as not corroding, these act as a bit of a fail-safe, that there's something that will break rather than the unit itself, so a bit of a kind of a sacrificial pin almost. So I'm going to give myself just a little bit of a loop for stress relief, and then just start winding it round. One thing I forgot to mention when putting the pole in is that the pole can go either way, and you need to make sure this little locking pin here is on the same side as the adjustment holes on the main unit. So if you want to twist or untwist, actually that's a bit too tight now I look at it, you can just push in the release pin, come away from the hole a little bit. Let's just take one twist out, just take a bit of that tension out, and then just slide back up, lock it off again. Alright, now we need to charge it up before we go to Nick's. First charge, they say you give it a good 16-17 hours to charge up, so definitely leave it overnight. This is the port here, the waterproof port on the battery module where the main unit attaches. But to charge, you put this adapter in. There's a little guide screw and then your positive and negative pins. So we're going to put this in, then the adapter goes into this. So get it lined up. And then the locking colour. After that, standard AC adapter. One end into the battery pack, other into the power point. While I was editing this video, I realised that when we got to Nick's, we kind of, dived into using the unit. It didn't really go specifically in any structured way through the controls. So I thought I'd do that quickly now, because then when we go on and start using the unit and talking about it, it'll make more sense to you. Okay, here are all the dials on the unit. Now your on-off is the threshold dial here. It clicks to the off position. As soon as it clicks out of off, the unit is on, and the further you turn it, the louder the threshold gets. So, turn threshold, one click on, and then you hear that noise, and that's your threshold noise. The more you turn it, the louder the threshold gets. The idea is you set that to be as low as possible so you can just hear it. Related is a volume dial above it. This sets the volume of the actual hits you get when the unit detects a target. This won't affect the volume of your threshold. That's what the threshold does. So adjust this. In the video, Nick says he really just leaves it up high as long as you don't find that painful. Next control you've got is your sensitivity. Now, if you have this set too high, you can get false readings when there isn't a target in the soil. Could be just like mineralization in the soil, that kind of thing. You'll see here when we go diving, or at least have the coil in the water waiting, there's a sub-aqua range, which is at the lower end of the sensitivity, because moving water, salt water, minerals in the sand, all sorts of things, you know, they're just, you really need to have the sensitivity turned down a bit if you're in that environment, which we will be pretty much exclusively once I've finished teaching myself how to use the unit. Last two dials are related. We have a discriminate and pinpoint mode. If we're in discriminate mode, the discriminate dial comes into effect. If we're in pinpoint, all metal mode, discriminate does nothing. Discriminate allows you to tell the unit to ignore certain types of metal. And there's a range, and as you turn to the higher end from 1 to 17, you start cutting out everything on the low end of that scale. There's a diagram in the book that talks about that scale. All metals are different. It's not like you're sort of going right, least valuable to most valuable or whatever, but that is a general indication of the way you're going. It doesn't work exactly like that, because things like really high quality aluminium, you know, they're a very pure non-ferrous metal, but have relatively low value. So experiment with your discrimination, what gets filtered out, what doesn't. Have a look at the manual for that spectrum. Now, if you're in pinpoint all metals mode, the unit will give you a very similar tone for all types of metal, from a rusty bit of iron through to a gold ring. But what you lose in your discrimination feature, you gain in that rather than getting this sort of rising signal and lowering as you sweep the coil, you get much more of a sharp peak. So you get a much better sense of where the object is in the ground, and not so much anything about the type of metal. Next up, Paul and I jumped in the Land Rover and we headed up to the sort of Foster area where Nick lives. Really beautiful part of the world, lovely beaches there. And we went onto his farm to start practicing and learning. The very first thing Nick went through with us was just some of the accessories and the tools he takes when he goes searching, particularly underwater.
Most of what's in here, you'll notice Alice Scooper.
Alice Scooper.
It's actually metal.
Nice.
Just has to be to withstand digging, but everything else is predominantly plastic.
Yep.
And the reason being that it doesn't pick up on the metal.
Ah, and this is your swivel, you're saying, for your search line.
This is what's known as the ZVU5 scat. It's highly technical. The zero visibility, 5 metre radius underwater search assistance tool, I think it stands for. And it's been designed and years and years
of
at a great expense.
R&D. Yeah, did you get a grant?
Yeah, you got a grant. Yep, government, apply for a government grant. The ZVU, zero visibility, underwater, 5 metre radius, circular search.
You faked that.
You can't say it's a SCAT assistance tool. Phone number.
Search circular assistance tool.
You can peg this in the bottom.
Yep.
It does have a metal swivel on it, so you do pick that up with your detector occasionally, but it makes a low quality noise. That,
so you know you're picking up your.
So you can swim around in a circle with this is the centre of your search tool. I used to have little black marks on it.
Yep.
One black mark for 1 metre, 2 black marks for 2 metres, which of course developed over the years into, well, you can't see black marks, but you can't see anything else.
Exactly.
So 1 knot for 1 metre.
Yeah.
Can't see black marks and everything black.
Yeah.
That's right.
Nick was saying in all his career finding stuff, he's done 2 searches in clear water.
Yes. 2 knots for 2 metres, 3 knots for 3 metres, and so on. I think this one's a 5 metre radius.
Yep.
4 knots, and then of course got the 5 at the end.
At the end of the loop.
Something to clip on an extra search line, generally speaking.
Okay, so you could extend.
You're diving, but
Yep.
see there you've got this.
Got a reel.
You might say, okay, underwater, I haven't found it in that 5 metre radius, but I don't want to swim back and change the centre of my search.
So I want to add a couple of metres to my
add a couple of metres
search,
and just go out. And I think I've got one of these that's 120 metres, and this one's probably a 30. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. But always get used to using all your gear like this when you can see what you're doing.
Yes.
Because underwater, if you haven't used it for long, okay, how did I terminate that?
Now I'm doing it by muscle memory.
Yeah, then wind it up at the end, all that sort of thing.
No, that's good advice.
Generally, there's something there, and then most of what's in here, sun shirts,
Yep.
BCF or whatever, because you will spend, if you're anything like me and you never ever give up until you find what you like, you'll spend hours and hours and hours in the sun
looking. Yeah.
torch. So this
You don't like to come away not finding it, do you, Nick?
I hate not
hating it.
So everything you see in here, the digging tools, you can go to Bunnings and buy digging tools in
plastic tools,
and of course they're not going to dig through stony ground or whatever, but the last thing you want if you're digging
for
something,
loose soil and sand.
yeah, exactly, is to have it interfering with your detector or hanging off your BCD if you're underwater.
Or even potentially, I guess, damaging the thing you're looking for.
Yeah. And that's the thing also, because predominantly what we look for is jewellery. A lot of jewellery has stones in it, so you've got to be very careful digging them with something like this.
Yeah, you don't want to knock the diamonds out of the diamond ring. Yeah.
Suddenly Alice Cooper's in trouble.
Yeah, Alice Cooper's knocked the diamond out.
Okay.
Back, but there's a 1 carat diamond sitting down there that you've got no hope of finding with a metal detector.
Right.
So you ask, what am I looking for? Am I looking for a ring that's got a big stone in it, that protrudes in a setting from the actual ring, or are the stones buried in the thing? If the stones are buried in the actual ring itself, it's not so much of a problem.
Not so dangerous,
out of the setting, which is more than possible.
Yep.
Marking the corners of search areas.
And these are sold as sand
pegs.
Tent pegs.
BCF.
Yep.
Sand tent pegs.
Nice.
What we were just talking about before is that the black ones float.
Yeah.
The
These
orange
ones
and
sink.
yellow ones don't.
Okay. And better vis underwater as well.
Underwater.
So stick to
Yellow's
the.
good underwater. White's probably your best underwater.
Okay. Yep.
White's probably the last thing that disappears in the
spectrum as it's
You have your successes. I really don't like failing, and I will put the ongoing searches that we have at Smith's Lake. There's 2 of them. I would have put 24 hours into one of them at least.
Wow.
At last count, just a rough estimate, and almost the same time into the other one. Found them. I know they're still there.
Yep.
And I will keep going back. But the trouble with Smith's Lake is you really only get the opportunity to search when they drain the lake.
Right. Okay.
You can do a scuba search, but both search areas are vast. They're massive search areas. Not 10 square metres. They're hundreds of square metres.
Yeah. So you do that wading just with the head of the detector in the water. Yeah.
And generally speaking, if you're wading up to chest deep, you can use your detector. Then you start to float, so you can wade with a weight belt.
Yep.
You wade with one of the rings. I found a beautiful ring for a lady in the canals down at Foster. I was underwater, I'll tell you out here, waited with the snorkel, got the nose I was looking for, a dive down and got the ring there. So you can, before you go to scuba. Scuba makes it easier to cover an area and easier to guarantee that you've covered every square inch of their search area you're looking at, particularly with the PVC search grid that we were talking about before.
Yes, we'll have a look at that in a moment.
Because at times it's, even in 2 or 3 metres of water, sometimes it's very disorientating because you can't see a thing. Yeah. And it just helps.
Yeah, keeping your bearings seems one of the critical ideas.
You need to know, even if you don't find what you're looking for, you need to know that you've covered every square inch. So at least at the end of a search, if you're unsuccessful, you can say, look, I've done everything I can do. I've got the best equipment in the world with the Minelab Excalibur. Your ring is not where you think it is.
Yes. Yeah.
Go home, do a bit more thinking.
Yeah. I can't tell you where it is, but I can absolutely tell you where it isn't.
Not. Yeah, exactly.
What we're going to do now is we're going to put just a whole lot of various bits and bobs inside a search area, so we can start sort of training the air. Oh, Nick's just dropped a whole lot of rings anyway, so we'll find those. The rings Nick's got other things he's found, and he's still looking for the owners of them, so we'll use those just to practice. We're also going to put some coins. We've got a collection of what do we got here, like $2, 10 cent, $20, 50 cent, and even some old 1 and 2 cent pieces. So this is a 1 cent, is it? Yep. And you had a 2 cent too, didn't you?
Yeah, it's in there somewhere.
It's a 5. I don't think I got a 5, so a 2 and a 5. Oops. So we'll use those as well. So often Nick was telling me he will look for an item on a sort of consignment, and in the process of looking for that, find many others. So Nick will always tag it with where he found it, when he found it.
And the date.
The date, yep.
And anything that's identifiable, like an inscription inside, if I can decipher it with my eyes, I'll put that on.
And then saves them all and hopes to find the owner one day.
In the hope that we'll get it back.
Yeah.
So that's sort of a typical a ring that's disappeared into the grass.
Yeah, it doesn't take much, does it?
And it doesn't take much to hide a gold ring, particularly as a lot of grass. The dead bit in particular is straw coloured.
Yeah, it's very golden coloured, yep.
So this is Stew's brand spanking new Minelab Excalibur. Anything that that's going to send a noise through to your headphones, what you're looking for, has to be within that, in this case, 10-inch circle.
Yep.
That's the coil diameter. So it has to be within there, otherwise it's not going to make a noise for you. And the coil has to be moving. If it's not moving, if you get a noise and you go, it's there, oh, it's not there anymore, it's because it's not moving. It needs to be moving in order for you to get that that noise. So as you're detecting, in this case, this is probably about 10 square metres. And you want to know that you've covered that. So you've got a 10-inch coil, you're sweeping it backwards and forwards, and you want to overlap. You don't want to, you see a lot of people walking like this.
Yeah.
And if you were to mark...
Paint that surface, yeah.
Yeah, you've got a series of triangles that you've missed.
Yep.
And then you see a lot of people that are doing this, and they come up at the end, and they do that. Very common mistake. So that, yes, you're getting reasonable ground penetration here, between here and here, but there's 2 or 3 foot out there either side that you're missing because it's coming off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So what you want to do is more it'll end up being an arc,
Okay, yep.
advancing very slowly.
So you're kind of advancing half the diameter of the coil.
Yeah, and there's an overlap. And there is some ground that you're covering again,
Yep.
twice by overlapping the coil. And when you come back the other way, assuming you haven't found your target in the first run of your leg, you're actually overlapping this mark
As well. Yeah.
Because you want to know that you've covered that area. So the forward progress that you make to the average observer is incredibly slow.
Mm-hmm.
Because you might be advancing it a step at a time. And the other thing that you'll do is any way that you've got to mark where you've been is use it. So if you're in the sand at the beach where there's hundreds of other footprints, just drag your feet.
Yep.
Or drag your scoop behind. So you get a signal like this, which is a 5-cent piece, for example, and you go, oh, there's a noise. Come back, stab it. It doesn't work. So you've got to
be moving.
There's a noise there. You're sweeping at that angle, so you might go 90 degrees away, sweep it there, and then you've got in your mind an imaginary cross roughly where that thing is, and you might dig it out of the sand, or you might dig it with your hit it with your pinpointer if it's somewhere where you can't dig, like the soccer field. So if you're walking along and you're getting beep beep, oh, signal, beep beep, and it's just steel caps. And it's happened. I think it's happened all this, and there's a joke on the internet where the guy's dug a 50-foot hole. He hasn't found what he's looking for, but it's because he's wearing steel cap boots.
Yes.
But,
it's pretty hard to get me out of steel cap boots, as you know, but I'm going to do it this time.
Yep. The difference between the bottle cap, you pretty much know that's going to be a bottle cap after you listen to them for a while. The 5-cent piece sounds like it's kind of whinging. 50-cent piece, more commitment, and there's no way you wouldn't dig that.
Okay.
And then you get to the gold ring, which I've lost again. I've lost it again. Yeah.
Oh, there's.
And there's no way in the world, very dense, very rich, very high pitch dig me sound. There's
Okay.
no way in the world that you would pass that.
So that's the
target.
sound you want to train your ear to hear.
Yeah, train your ear to hear that kind of sound, and it's not guaranteed that it's a gold ring.
Yeah.
The Equinox, for example, you've got a digital number readout.
Yes.
Now
Yeah.
I've never used an Equinox. This is how I understand they work. And if it's in the range, because you've got a gold ring. I'm looking for a gold ring, and that's one of the questions you ask. What am I actually looking for?
Yeah.
What sort of metal is it? Does it have any stones in it? Because stones, believe it or not, even though they don't conduct electricity, which is what it's sort of measuring, I think, interruptions to the electrical field that the coil's producing.
Yep.
They do have a bearing on what the sound comes up.
Okay,
like.
interesting.
So ladies' rings with big stones, for example, you might get a gold tone, that beautiful gold tone,
Yep.
but it might have a little bit of a break in it, like the bottle cap sound. That's why you would probably still dig that bottle cap.
Just in
You know
case.
it's non-ferrous. You're probably 80-90% sure it's a bottle cap, but it might be something.
Yeah,
you know,
okay,
and that's
yeah.
why you do it. And all the 50s,
Can be slightly different.
yeah, they are.
So it was interesting, you were saying, for example, the aluminium in a ring pool is a different quality of aluminium to the aluminium in the can. It's not food safe.
Yeah, and generally, because it comes in contact with a human consumable food,
Yep.
it's a very high quality food grade aluminium in a can, and that's why they're very desirable to recycle.
Yes.
And you get sort of top dollar for doing it. The ring pool doesn't need to be. It needs to be fairly rigid to do its job. So it gets a rigidity from the shape, and possibly it's a different, and it definitely sounds like a different alloy. It sounds like a trashy signal compared to the actual can itself.
Okay.
Which may or may not have something to do with the, it probably does have something to do with the actual metal itself. And possibly the volume of metal too. The aluminium can is a big target.
Big amount of metal,
And if you're
yeah.
searching on a very sensitive setting, so what you're looking for, say for example in the search, in the surf for example, where things with high density to volume ratio sync very well with the sand movement, right? So you want to go very sensitive. That was on auto sensitivity.
Okay, yep.
And auto sensitivity. The first click off auto sensitivity is your maximum sensitivity.
Right, so you're straight from auto to max.
So if you pass over a large object like an aluminium can, sometimes you get that overload signal,
Okay.
which means that there's a high volume of metal there, and I don't think, even on full sensitivity, we're not going to get that from...
Little items. And you're not getting, doesn't sound like you're getting any false signals either on...
Aluminium in that bottle opener, you can try.
Yeah.
It's a different sound.
Okay, now that's the machine trying to... Because in the bottle opener here, we've got a ferrous metal keyring and an aluminium bottle opener.
Ah, gotcha.
So you've got a combination
Multiple
of
metals,
here.
yeah.
So the fancy gadgetry in there, which I don't even pretend to understand,
Yep.
is processing that and trying to work out and tell you what it is.
What it
It's
is.
going, well,
It's the confused sound.
yeah. Is it ferrous?
Or is it not?
non-ferrous?
Yeah. And we're currently on discriminate
We're on
1,
discriminate
3.
mode. Yeah, low discrimination.
Yep.
And the further you turn this up, eventually you'll start losing small targets.
Okay.
And
So where's our bottle cap now, for example?
the
Oh, yeah.
smallest target we've got here is the 5-cent piece.
Yeah.
Now we've upped the discrimination here. You might say, okay, I'm finding a whole heap of 5-cent pieces or ring pulls.
Mm-hmm.
I want to discriminate against those. I don't want to hear from them.
Yep, filter those
The
out.
only discrimination you'll get away with these days.
Okay.
But as you can tell now, what was making a really good noise before,
Yep. Very marginal now, isn't
yeah,
it?
and we up the discrimination even further, right up, and it'll disappear totally. So the machine's saying he set me because he wants to ignore that.
Yep.
So,
And what about the ring now? Is that gonna...
no, I'm pretty sure the ring will stay there no matter what you do.
Even though we keep losing it?
Again, what we should do is put it back in the bag. We're spending too much time
Looking for it. Yeah, we could do.
Okay, it's even ignoring the 50-cent
Wow,
piece now. And
okay.
that's a large. So
And is it on 10 now?
it's on 17.
7.
Oh, 15 out of 17.
15 out of 17, so
So-
okay.
So now we may well have discriminated out our
Even
our
out the gold ring.
So if we're using the wrong settings, we don't understand our machine. We're out looking for someone's family heirloom gold ring. Okay, I can see the ring there. That's it. Yeah, that's your gold ring.
Yep, and you can't even hear that at all
Yeah,
now.
can't hear it anymore because we've discriminated it out. We've said we don't want to hear anything that comes in at that level. We want to hear something bigger. So
So how far would you have to turn that down now for that to start showing up again?
We'll do an experiment because I don't know the answer to that question.
Oh, not much, okay.
No, not much because we're down on 14 now.
Wow, so yeah.
I think we were only on 15 before.
Wow, so it's the
Yeah.
borderline.
So it's gone. And you can't hear it, but we're getting just a peep.
Yep.
Tiniest little peep from it now. Come back again. And it's come back at say 14 by the look of that.
Yep.
So, reading through Gary Drayton's book and the other fella, Clyde.
So we've forgotten, Clyde,
Get his
someone?
name. We'll put his name in the video later.
Yeah, we will.
Now, I did a lot of detecting with the Excalibur 1000 before I bought the Excalibur II.
Yep.
And learnt a lot from doing it, but also in the back of my mind had all these things that the machine was doing that I didn't understand.
Right.
Did read the instruction manual that came with it, but then these guys are doing relic hunting and treasure and relic hunting, and they understand the machines better than I ever did, and I'm approaching their level of understanding. Probably will never get there, but after reading through those books, sitting one day at work when I had lots of quiet moments between what was happening at work, there were so many aha moments in reading
those books,
where he described very, very well written books, described the particular thing that I've been hearing for years and not understanding, and I went, aha, that's exactly what that means. And there would have been 30 of those in that thing there, and
wow,
I must read it again to lock them in even.
That's it. I've read one of them, but I didn't have enough experience with the detector yet to get the aha moments from reading the book.
And the aha moments, I think the fact that they were so aha helped to lock them into my memory better than if I'd read the book first. I probably wouldn't have got as much benefit out of it as I did of reading it probably 5 or 6 years after. Actually, it's more than that. Well after I started using the Excalibur 1000, I read the books, read those particular 2 books, and they were they made me a much better detectorist
Excellent.
with this detector. So discrimination mode will filter out for you ferrous metals, so metals containing iron, which is typically not what you're looking for, as for what I do anyway.
And when you go over iron, you'll hear the threshold blank
Yes.
as you go over
It's
it.
called the iron mask, and then we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the next. Go into all metals mode. The sound is substantially different. There's no change in the pitch of the sound when you're using all metals mode.
Based on the type of metal.
Yeah, it's not.
And it's slightly more accurate, which is why they call it pinpoint / all metals.
Very sharp, very short sound.
Yep.
And there's no change in pitch, so
Yeah.
a little bit of a change.
Bottle cap, 50 cent. Yeah.
And there's your dollar coin, which was a definite dig me noise, versus your 5-cent piece, which we've lost again,
Probably treading on it.
which is a there's
Silk.
your 5-cent piece.
Okay.
So no difference in that 5-cent piece to your dollar coin.
Yeah.
No great difference.
Or
So-
just steel, iron, it would be exactly the same.
Aluminium.
Yep,
on the watch
exactly the same noise will come.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
And the watch, everything virtually the same.
Same, yeah.
So when you train your ear to listen to the different pitches, suddenly all your differentiation between your definitely dig me noises and your maybe not noises is gone.
It's gone, yep.
It's gone. So, but what you might find is that you find something on discrimination mode, and the sound that it gives is much longer. It's a longer duration noise, and if you can imagine it, it kind of comes in, reaches a volume and a pitch point, and then fades off again. So you know that it's somewhere there. If you switch now onto pinpoint mode,
Much more accurate, isn't it?
yeah, you've got it within 2 inches rather than
So what you've lost in information about the type of metal, you've gained in the location of the metal.
yeah. And quite often you see people switch backwards and forwards, and I do it occasionally, backwards and forwards between pinpoint and discriminate mode, just to help zero in on a target where you don't really want to dig a big hole.
Yep.
I know the guy who owns this place.
Oh, good.
He won't mind too
He's a
much.
top bloke.
Yeah, he's top bloke.
And so people say they even just pass, like move clumps of soil under the coil sometimes.
Yeah, pick a handful of whatever you think might be in there and just work out. It could well be my steel cap boost. As I say, not what I do. That's still in the hole.
Okay. It's probably your plumbing. It could be Roman.
Oh, it could be.
There's a lot of Roman stuff in Australia.
I think it's staying basically still.
Another dad joke. We're having more dad joke warning, aren't we? Yeah.
It's in that pile. So
Okay.
what we're actually looking for is in this little pile of dirt. So we're going to break it up and investigate what's telling us there's an iron object there somewhere.
Just keep cutting it in half, I guess.
Still in that pile there.
Okay.
It's somewhere
Seems more
there.
here,
It's
is
come
it?
across the other way.
No, okay, do your 90 degrees, yep.
So according to my measure, it's what we're looking for is somewhere in this little bit here. Now, if we had the pinpointer, which is currently not working, we would zero in on it straight away.
Right, with the pinpointer.
Yeah. But what we're looking for now,
I mean, it could be saying tiny, or
yeah, it could be very tiny.
it's a staple, is it?
Yeah, it does look like a staple,
Okay.
but a very low volume
Wow.
of metal.
That's it, yep.
And it's buried somewhere in that hole. So that hole's probably 5 inches deep.
The first thing I've ever found.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it forever. Nick's going to show us now, he's just talking to me about the discriminate feature blanks out a ferrous metal. But if you then have something you want to dig just past it, it can blank that out as well.
Okay, as the machine passes over and processes the ferrous metal, it's going to blank out that constant threshold noise that you can hear, the humming that you can hear. And it could either be a high one. Okay, the last thing it heard was a non-ferrous metal, so that the threshold's pretty high. so it stays
Stays
high, and that
high,
to me is more comfortable than listening to a low threshold for some reason. Okay, what happens when you pass over a ferrous metal object is that background noise disappears momentarily and then comes back again. So that's the machine telling you, a little bit like our staple down there, that that target is not worth digging. It's not what you're looking for. It contains iron, it's valueless or whatever. Okay, now the trouble being is if you're sweeping your coil, if your target, being the gold ring, which is here now probably about 8 inches from the shackle, is under your coil in that blank period, you're going to miss that target. So whenever you're advancing forward slowly, overlapping your sweeps and all that sort of thing with your coil, if you come across a blank noise, you come across an iron object, what's a really good idea? We're going to pass now straight over the shackle and 8 inches later over the gold target, right? So we're going to listen to it. Okay, we're going to go this direction. And all we get is a blank. We're going over both targets, but we've gone over the shackle first and then over the gold ring. And the trouble is, while we're going over the gold ring, we're in the blank. So if you get a blank sound and you've passed over an iron object, stop your forward advance and come back the other direction. We're going to come back the other way now. We're going to go over the gold ring first. There's your diggable noise. And then it blanks out after it. So at some point there, just before you blank out, you've got something that's worth investigating again, because you're coming at it from the other direction. You're not hitting your target that you want in the blank zone. So, okay, yes, we've got it. And what you might do then is, because you're getting something that tells you there's something there worth looking at, what you might do then is change direction 90 degrees and come back the other way. And there's your target. With that repeatable, definitely dig me noise.
Because I was busy myself trying to absorb all the information from Nick, I didn't do a particularly good job of filming that, particularly with the GoPro, with the wide angle. So I'll just quickly show you on some paper what Nick was talking about, just in case it wasn't clear. What happened is we had a big ferrous shackle on the ground and a gold ring near it. As we ran the detector over it, the threshold got blanked because we were in discriminate mode. So it went completely quiet because we passed a ferrous metal, something that was below the setting on the discriminate dial. If we're passing left to right, we can pass over this gold ring while the threshold is blank. We won't hear it. So he's saying, look, be careful, then maybe pass back this way, pick up the ferrous object if you can see it, scan again. Maybe the ring's under it even. So consider scanning at 90 degrees, 180 degrees, but just consider that a blanking threshold can make you miss something of value.
Oh, wrong button.
Paul's found something we didn't actually leave there. We're both going to have the first thing in our trophy cabinet. I've got a rusty staple. What are you going to have?
Oh, please be a bobby pin.
Yeah, that's it. That sounds like maybe a gold bullion by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it's very gold bullion-y.
It's definitely well over an ounce.
What do you reckon? What do you reckon, Nick?
It's definitely a sound that you would dig.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
okay.
I was thinking.
There's no way in the
That
world that
sounds
you
diggable.
So have you done the 90 degree? So have you changed to pinpoint? Oh, you're on pinpoint.
No,
Oh, no, you
I've
went.
changed
Okay,
that
yep.
up, but- So somewhere there.
The other thing Nick was saying is when you recover something from a hole, scan it again. Who knows if there's more than one thing in it, you know? You were saying a lot of rings like the eternity ring,
Yeah.
engagement ring, wedding ring, they're all together. So just because you find something doesn't mean it's all that's in that spot.
Still there.
And when you dig your spoil out, move it a bit further away from the hole so that...
Yeah, you don't get a full scan in it, yeah. What's that?
There you go, that'll be your prize.
Yeah.
Go back onto discriminate mode.
Yep,
I was going to say discovery mode, that'll do. Yeah,
that's it.
definitely.
So what is it, copper or something? Or
I actually don't. It does look like copper,
it
doesn't it?
doesn't look ferrous. It didn't blank.
Well, it's definitely a non-ferrous
metal, yeah.
It's your machine. It's definitely
Your,
told you
your
that.
machine's going, dig me.
And it does look like copper. Is it a bullet shell that's been mowed?
We'll
wash-
maybe.
we'll
Maybe
wash
it's
it
a
up and
brass
have a look.
casing. I don't know. We'll have a look.
Bit of copper pipe.
Brass
just
or
finish you,
copper.
or just a
But
bit of copper strap.
an unmistakable, definitely dig me non-ferrous metal.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
There's no way you.
Well done. Nice work, dude. Yeah. Oh yes. So 1 and 2 cent pieces. What's the story there?
Now, I'm pretty sure that roughly in 1980 something, 1 and 2 cent pieces went out of circulation. But you'll come across them now and they make one of the most diggable noises.
Noises, okay.
There's no way, if your ear's trained, that you wouldn't dig a 1 or 2 cent piece. They're worth absolutely nothing from a monetary point of view. In fact, they're worth less than 1 and 2
1 or 2
cents.
cent pieces, yeah.
But what they teach you about the actual location and how many people have been there detecting before you got there is priceless. You know?
Yeah, right.
They're good. You're pulling out 1 or 2 cent pieces. You know that there hasn't been anyone there who's really known what they're doing, at least, for quite some time.
Cool, that's a good point.
Otherwise, they've found them and thrown them away. I tend to find things, and even if it's trash, particularly on beaches and stuff, I've got left pocket for treasure, right pocket for trash.
Gotcha.
So I'll go home by the bin, and all the trash goes into the bin, and the treasure or anything useful like lead sinkers that we keep for
melting down or whatever.
will go in the left pocket. And so if 1 and 2 cent pieces, worthless. Even pre-decimal coins, they're interesting, generally worth not a lot, but they teach you a lot about where you are.
Yeah, that's a great idea. No one with any skill has done this area.
And then you go back into the history, classic spot in Foster where you find pre-decimal coins. I think I've probably got them all now, but in the old photographs of the area, in the corner of that tidal pool, there's a diving board. So if you've got a pocket full of coins, your ice cream money,
good intel.
Back when Streets ice cream used to be 5 cent or threepence or whatever it was, and you do a flip on the diving board and it's gone, and that's why that particular area of that pool is covered in the
was rich pickings,
And you keep them there. I always keep the pre-decimal things, even keep the 1s and 2s. So in that case there, Stuart's found a noise that says non-ferrous, dig me. He spent quite a bit of time digging it out, and what's turned up is something we don't even know what it is. A little bit of copper or something, or whatever. But it's definitely something you wouldn't pass over and dig. And looking at the settings he's using, the sensitivity is reasonably high. It's set on about 8. The only thing that we've changed since he found that was put the volume on to full. Now, if you're searching for something and it's a deep target and there's a lot of background noise, for example, and your volume is on half, you might well not even hear it.
Okay.
The machine might be telling you something and you can't hear it. Now, that's particularly the case when you're scuba diving, because the exhalation of your breath, which generally speaking, if you're semi-horizontal, face forward, face the thing, will go up past your ears, past your headphones. Some of it even ends up in your headphones. It's quite loud. And quite often I find when I'm scuba diving, I'm holding my breath, subconsciously holding my breath, because I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah, you don't want to...
Occasionally you get to the point where you go, I need to breathe. So you might stop your sweep, stop your advance, and stop swimming, and have a bit of a breather, because your exhalation is loud. So the louder you got the volume, the less likely you are to miss a quite deep and
that's a good
target.
tip. Good tip.
Yeah. There you go. Saxby's.
That's going on.
Saxby's. It's a local bottle.
Is it? Okay.
So there's your aluminium screw top, which is your high. Let's test it.
It's the diggable.
That's our diggable.
And we have to check the hole to make sure there isn't a second bottle.
Because what was making our ferrous noise up the other end of that thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so back to our.
Yep.
That's our bottle top.
Yep. Once again, though, if there's a bottle there, it could have been when someone buried rubbish, and there's like a whole bag of rubbish there.
Okay, so we're getting the same non-committed semi-ferrous noise from the other end of what we thought was that single target.
Yep.
Or we thought. But the good diggable noise is now gone.
Yep.
So the good diggable noise, roughly 6 inches under the surface, is the bottle top.
Yep.
And at the other end of it is something that we're not going to waste.
Not going to bother. Yeah.
Because the machine's telling you not to waste time on it.
Yep.
Yep.
And can we just listen to that noise then? So we heard the bottle cap. So a bit of blanking.
Yeah, we're getting the iron mask happening. And no longer is it confused by the beautiful noise.
Yeah.
Which was over here. It's not confused by that anymore, because the rest of the target that's down there is not worth digging.
Yep.
So thank you, Minelab Excalibur. We're not going to bother.
Yes, that's it. We know not to.
And it's told you not to bother.
Yep.
Clever.
No. Paul and I got to head home soon, but you may have noticed that Nick's metal detector looks slightly different to ours, but it is an Excalibur II. And the reason is that Nick's made some mods.
I made some mods.
What have you done?
I'm 6'4" tall.
Yep.
And if you look at me trying to use one of these,
Yes. I think that is the long handle on its longest setting.
its longest setting.
Longest setting, yeah.
in order to get that to the ground and have a decent swim,
You've got a nice stoop, it's good.
I've got a stick. and it does, if you're detecting for a decent time, it does sort of affect your back. This is also substantially lighter.
Lighter,
This
yeah.
is the original carbon shaft, the same as what's on Stuart's detector, is here.
Yep.
But from this point upwards, the Anderson
Yeah, let's have a look. Detector shafts, yeah.
does is it's carbon fibre. There's a mount on here for your control box and your battery.
Yep.
Which gets them substantially closer to your body.
Yeah, so all the weight's after the handle almost. It's
Puts them right underneath your forearm.
Yep.
And closer to your body, so you're not really holding them out here like the other one.
Yep.
It allows me to stand upright and still get
Yep.
full swing. So I actually use this on full extension all the time, even underwater.
Even underwater, and this is really interesting. So when we were doing the assembly, the manual talks about using the shorter shaft with diving, and diving is what Paul and I are going to be doing 90%. And I was really pleased to hear Nick say that he uses the long shaft, also because of the silt reduction. So by going in a line and being able to sweep 1.5 meters either side, it's just less area at the bottom you're disturbing. So well, that was a good tip, and I'm glad I don't have to swap. It means I can use this on land and underwater without reconfiguring it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've also got an aftermarket protector for all the dials on it.
For the knobs, yeah.
Knob
the knobs
protector.
are one of the most vulnerable parts of the detector.
Yep.
And if you're going to make your control box leak, there's probably
Yep.
no quicker way to do it than give those a hard time.
Give it a hard knock, and then
Yeah.
you're going to break the seal
Yeah,
underneath.
You
Yep.
can see in there, just down the bottom in the clear
Yep.
plastic, little O-rings where they're waterproof.
Oh
and
yeah,
things
yep,
like that.
yep. Underneath them there, yep.
Yeah, very easy to give them a knock, and then you can buy this from, I think both things came from the US.
And so this is paired to this shaft,
No,
or
two different plates.
so you could put this on the stock.
Yes, yeah,
Right,
mounts on the
okay.
stock shaft as well.
Excellent. Okay, that's good to know.
And just gives those knobs just a little bit of
Yeah.
protection from an accidental knock,
Yeah, I like it.
or something
Yep.
like that.
Nice colour match with it
Nice in-
too.
Yes, in Excalibur II green,
Yeah.
which all helps you find your detector underwater if you ever lose it.
Yes.
The bright colours
Yeah.
and that sort of thing there.
No, it's interesting to see those upgrades.
Yeah, it gives you more detecting time. It's easier on the body.
Yep.
And if you're tall, particularly, it just
Yeah, that's it. See, that's all right for me. So I'm like 6'1", you're 3 inches taller than I am.
yeah.
Eventually the time sadly came that we had to head back to Sydney, so jumped in the Land Rover and started the drive back south.
I'll get it.
So huge thanks to Nick for sharing all his knowledge with me and with us. It was a massive kickstart. Nick's done a lot of underwater metal detecting, and there's just so much to learn. It's nice just to go, look, I've made these mistakes, you don't need to make them too. And yeah, it was incredibly generous. So thank you, Nick. We'll definitely be catching up with Nick again for some more underwater adventures and a few more pearls of wisdom. There was so much information that Nick shared that there's no way I could fit it into one video. I mean, this is quite a long video anyway, and it doesn't have half of what Nick had to share. So we'll definitely start using the detector in the wild. I'll use it on land. I've actually done quite a bit of detecting on land already because I think it's the best way to get familiar with the equipment. Found some kind of fun, not particularly valuable, but interesting stuff. Also going to have a chat with my mate Steve from Vintage Restorations Australia because in a past life he was also a conservator, so he's got a wealth of knowledge on the chemistry of conserving the objects we pull up as well. So, you know, lots of stuff to learn there. All right, well, take care and I'll catch you soon. See ya.
bastard, Daisy. I saw you. You've broken into Vicky's veggie patch. And you've annoyed Daffy. You can't get out now, can you? Look at you. There you are. You got yourself in, you don't know how to get yourself out, do you? You're gonna have to come and let you out, aren't they? Oh, let's go. Well, I should watch it for a while. See if you remember how you got in. Or come down. You're jealous she found a way in and you don't know it. What are you doing, Daisy? Come on. Oh, yes. Should we free Daisy? Daisy. Come on. Oi, don't go that way. Come out this way. There you go. How'd you get in there? You goose. You're gonna run back home. Had enough. Gotta hide. Come on, Daisy. Out you come. You are gonna go to bed. You must have been scared. Oh, good night. All the food for you once more, Daffy.